the boy. I am so fucking tired of this toxic tipping culture, and I do believe this former president is just talking out his ass. But right, I just need to get this off my chest because it's become like a mental illness. Like the initial idea of like tipping a waitress was a cafe out in the bumfuck of nowhere next to Courage the Cowardly Dog. And obviously, that diner, it takes quite a bit for it to stay up. And it's giving a service, and the waitress, above giving you the food, also gave you the social aspect, which was part of the service. It was part of the amenities that the cafe gave. But nowadays, like, and I don't have a problem with tipping, like, a waitress at Applebee's, right? But nowadays, you have to tip your, like, DoorDash driver, which is like, okay, where's the interaction other than when they hand you the food at the door? And again, it has gotten to the point where you have to, well, no, you don't have to. It's just you have the option to tip like you're the self checkout, or to tip a literal fucking machine. It's like, what the fuck? And there's this odd meme where you had to do that. I guess it was a meme, it was a joke, it was people talking out their ass about how you have to tip your landlord because, oh, well, they're available 24/7. Oh, and you'll tip just a waitress working da 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 da. And at the end of the day, and this is something, people just don't think about because they just absolutely have to take the moral high ground on everything. It's like, you can't help yourself. It's like, who benefits from tipping culture, right? And it's like, obviously the company does because they can justify paying their workers less and demand the consumer, like the customer, pays the difference. And that's just, again, way back when in the diner idea, okay, fine, whatever, and, an Applebee's and restaurants, whatever. But people literally want you to pay up to 15 and 20% of what the meals cost. And it's like, have you lost your fucking mind? 15 to 20% more money out of my pocket. Yeah, I'm fine with a couple dollars, right? I ain't gonna shit my pants. But former Blizzard president suggests you should be able to leave a $10 or $20 tip for devs because some games are special. Why? I mean, I guess, but not really. Yeah, no. Report first reported by, I ain't gonna try saying that, former Blizzard president Mike Ybarra took to Twitter a few days ago to suggest a new form of showing developers appreciation, having the option to leave a $10 or $20 tip for a game you love. I guess I like the sentiment at least. I mean, sure, but you gotta understand, like, okay, so you tip a game, and where's that money? Is it actually going to go to the developers, or is the majority of it going to go towards the publisher, and another good majority of it is going to go towards upper and middle management? And like, of that $10 or $20, the developer only sees like a couple bucks. Again, because this is really how money is allocated, right, on the dollar. And even after the game has hit the market, right, it'll still go to that. And again, there are so many Kickstarters for like smaller devs, indie devs, and I think itch.io already has a tipping idea, but Pal World, they don't need no tips. They already made millions off their game. Same with the developers of Helldivers. I always use them as like examples because they're the biggest examples in the past couple of years. You know, when I beat a game, there are some that just leave me in awe of how amazing the experience was. Yabara wrote. At the end of the game, I've often thought I wish I could give these folks another 10 or 20 because it was worth more than my initial 70, okay. And they didn't try to nickel and dime me every second. Well, 70 fucking dollars. Like, when did the whole $70 thing start? I think it was past 2018, 2019, maybe 2020. And again, before that, it was DLC. And, I don't mind giving, like, the creators of Warframe, so not Creative Assembly, goddammit, Digital Extremes, a couple extra bucks, right? And I'm gonna bite the bullet right now. I gave Nikkei $20 for their pass because one of my waifus had a skin, and I got a lot of things that gave me the ability to recruit more waifus. Like, and I don't feel bad for doing this, right? Because it's a good game. Like, Nikkei's free, right? And I also bought one of the passes for Helldivers because, again, and Helldivers is a $40 game, but I was fine giving them an extra 10 because, again, it's a good game. And I want to support them. And that's how you support the developers. You don't tip them, right? You just buy the content that's already in the game. And, again, at least the business model now is to milk the player base of every conceivable dime, right? Like, there's very little difference between AAA companies and their products and mobile games, because half of them look like a mobile game anyway, right? Like Suicide Squad and Diablo obviously was meant to be one. Diablo 4. And I'd even say Overwatch. Like, I think that game could probably play on a mobile. It looks like one. But, and at least in the case of Nikkei, which is absolutely a mobile game, it gives you ass and titties. And surprisingly has a good story. And has good dubstep, which is the holy trinity of gaming for me. Right? But for what, 20, 30, like we looked at the Star Wars Outlaws game, and it's like an extra $40 you get a season pass in a single player fucking game. Right? And you have content that day one is locked off until you get the season pass. So this is content that will be in the game day one that you cannot access unless you pay even more dollars. Right? So, that's my argument. What is the difference between a AAA multi-billion-dollar company with a game that costs $300 million to make and mobile games that just try to nickel and dime you? They both use the same tactics, right? Your bar side games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, Red Dead Redemption 2, Elden Ring, and Baldur's Gate 3. So he names current year games. And though I agree with him on a couple of these, as an example, games worth tipping. Again, and though I agree, again, Elden Ring 2 is coming out with DLC. If you want to support that game, just buy the DLC and play through it. Baldur's Gate 3, if they add a content that gives you ass and titty sliders, sure. I doubt they'll do that. God of War, I'm assuming he means Ragnarok. I mean, just buy the older games and play them. I mean, I know $70 is already a lot, Yabar added, but it's just an option at the end of the game I wish I had at times. Some games are that special. Again, if you genuinely in your heart of hearts and in your soul believe that, man, just buy a game twice. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't fucking do it, but if you genuinely believe you want to tip motherfuckers, just buy the game on one console, then buy the game again on another console if you just need to throw more money at the developers. And I believe some developers are legitimately worth it. As I'm sure you can imagine, most of the commenters as was VG247. Writer Owissa I'm not going to try to say that. Weren't exactly thrilled about your bar's idea, to be clear. Neither am I, leaving aside the fact that most of us probably already spend too much money on this hobby. There is a question of whose pockets a theoretical tip would wind up in. Exactly. This is exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Having it go into a big pool that splits up as bonuses for the devs team sounds great to me, but I'm the sort of guy who likes the idea of residual for developers and performers, avoiding layoff half of your staff to appease shareholders, not buying Gearbox for 1.3 billion, then selling it for less than half that just 3 years later. You know, wacky bleeding heart idealism that just out of fashion with the captains of this industry. Yeah, I mean, you give tips to these companies, and then what happens? Well, where's your money going? Is it really going to the developers? If they're just going to be laid off the next month, and who's getting that money? I mean, it is such a volatile industry that you don't know. Even paying the $70 is like, how much of that is hitting their pockets? And again, you have CEOs like this former one that's opening his fucking mouth, Ybarra, who probably gets paid millions in dividends even after leaving a company, or he's probably in a golden parachute towards another one. Like, you don't think that money's going to go to him? I feel like this sort of thing would just get swept into a game's general revenue. Am I tipping EA here or Ubisoft? Yeah, exactly. And you have the parent company, and you have the company under them, like Lucas Arts, Lucas Films, and all of them, right? It reminds me of the old Ackwood comic with an accountant asking why Ray Schmuckles made a check for $10,000 to Oreos. I just wanted Sony Interaction Entertainment to have some walking around money. Yeah, the idea makes a bit more sense for small indie developers, but you can kind of already tip them if you really want. I challenge you to show me a bedroom programmer making a boomer shooter or Metrovania who doesn't have a Patreon or Ko-Fi or something. You can't. I mean, exactly. Most indie devs, at least, I guess, double A or single A for lack of a better term, right? They already have Kickstarters, right? They already have Patreons. It's kind of just for people who want to shoot over some money. Comments. What the fuck are you doing? Are there no comments to hear? I guess not. Oh yeah, and there's someone who told me that. Oh no, there are comments. Are there? Yeah. The tip system in the US is completely out of control, as it just pays your employees what they deserve in the first place rather than guilt tripping your customers to pay more on top. Just so you can get away with not having to. Exactly. This is what the fuck I'm trying to talk. Finally, someone who has a fucking head on their shoulders and can't help but to moralize to people. Like, absolutely. Just pay your employees. That sounds communist. That sounds communism. Can't have that. Now, communism would be paying everyone poorly but equally. Janitor, software programmer, doesn't matter. Same pay. Abso-fucking-lutely. There wouldn't be pay in a it just keeps going. There wouldn't be pay in a communist society. Communism is defined by there being a lack of capital. That is, no forms of money. Nobody would be getting paid at all. They work, and in return they would receive the necessities for life: shelter, food, water, etc. So basically, you'll own nothing and be happy. Exactly. If you boil down this odd tipping idea, well, I don't think it'll be down to that, to fucking communism. But again, it's the company just is incapable of paying their employees what they are owed and their services, and demanding, using the moral stick of beating, to have the customer do it. It's like, well, why? Right? Hey, nice pun. Here in nowhere, we only tip a restaurant, and only 5 to 10 max. I know here in Indiana, we give like what, $2 or $3. Like, we don't do percentage. It's just, oh, you get 2, 3, maybe even $4, and that's just fine. Like, no one browbeats you. But again, people are like, oh, you need to do 15 to 20%. What the fuck? No, not in this fucking economy. And look, eating out is absolutely a luxury in this fucking economy. So why would you want it to be more of a luxury than what it already is with Bidenomics and inflation? Why would you want it to be an even bigger luxury to eat out? And it's something you have to do, right? If you're like on a date or taking the missus out or being with friends, right? And it's the social aspect of experiencing human. So why do you not want people to do this? Or why do you want it to be more taxing on the just everyday fucking people? Everyone from the sewage worker to the small business owner to the fucking bricklayer to the construction worker. Why do you want it to be even more expensive for them to enjoy a luxury? Is what I'm trying to ask. Tipping is closer to socialism law. I mean, technically. Forcing customers to pay part of the employee's wages sounds like it came out of a capitalism 101 textbook. Again, I don't care the moral philosophy behind it. Welfare is not capitalistic. Again, I don't care the whole geo-economical. All I'm saying is, you know, the whole tipping idea and tipping culture has gone out of whack. And someone has to say it. You know, this is something everyone's thinking, but someone has to be the asshole to say it. And that asshole is me. And that's all I gotta say about that. Peace.